What's up, everybody? Atmosphere. You know what time it is. It's the top of the hour here at KRFF 95.9, Moorhead, Fargo, RadioFreeFargo.org. You can stream that wherever you are, and we're going to be beaming it out to you. Right before me, Side Stage with Trav, 1 to 3. Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. That's me. That's your boy. 4 to 5. We talk about cannabis legalization. We talk about cannabis news. We talk about cannabis in general. We talk about cannabis you shouldn't have in North Dakota because it's illegal. Unless it's Delta 8, then it's a gray area, and then you can Google that, And if you want to sign a petition, Indy for Freedom of Cannabis Act petition is being circulated in North Dakota if you want to get involved. And that deadline is creeping up, January 22nd. So we need your help. Right after me, Stinky Arts Music Mart. 5 to 6. Locals on the 8. Radio Free Madness or Radio Madness. And then Black Ring Ritual wraps up your Thursday here in the best radio station in the world as far as I'm concerned. Again, Canna-Talk ND with Wilson every Thursday on KRFF 95.9 LPFM. Moorhead, Fargo. Kind of gloomy here in Fargo, but, I'm happy to be alive. It's almost 40 degrees out. Yesterday was in the 50s. I mean, I was hugging strangers. I was so happy. All right. Part of that wasn't true. But anyway, Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. It's always 420 degrees here in the studio. I'm dressed appropriately. I hope everybody else is too. This show is brought to you by Black Cottage Alchemy, Black Cottage Alchemy on Facebook, or blackcottagealchemy.com. Odds Dams in West Fargo, or right downtown here in the heart of beautiful Fargo. Tochi Products has it right inside the door. You tell Joe you're in there. Wilson or Becky sent you, and he'll turn you right on to the Black Cottage Alchemy products. The body butter, like I said, everybody should have a little bit of it. Try it out. There's little samples usually. But get in there. Give my sponsor's product a try. Thank you, Black Cottage Alchemy, for sponsoring this show about cannabis and the benefits of it. I believe God created cannabis to grow out of the ground with every other thing that grew out of the ground to benefit us for whatever we need. And I thank God at Antioch Church every Sunday, 10 a.m., you can do the same. Come on through. We're going to be in the parade, which is going to be wild. So if you're down there, Holiday Parade of Lights, I'm going to be pushing my my Jesus through there. But I'll definitely promote cannabis wherever I can. So it's not like an either or. So I'll be out there handing out candy, doing my thing for the man upstairs. And then December 18th, I'm going to be Jesus. It's a Christmas play. So it's streaming on Facebook, Antioch Church. So you want to watch me with my 2021 glasses, try to be somebody who is in, BC. But again, Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. Strap on your resin soak seatbelt. We're going to get this party started. I talk about cannabis benefits, cannabis legalization. We're going to talk about South Dakota a little bit more because that was just what a punch to the gut that was. Canna-Talk ND on Instagram. I'll keep you posted on anything that's going on. Shout out to my podcast people on the podcast platforms that I can't mention because I don't think I'm supposed to because of some reason. So one has the word pod in it and the other one is a fruit. And I've been told by my producer, Canna Head Pilco, that our reach is extending every week. So shout out to you guys. Keep listening to me on there and make sure you never don't shout out RadioFreeFargo.org. KRFF 95.9 is where Canna-Talk ND Wilson originates. So come over here first, RadioFreeFargo.org. And now let's talk about the Friday night frequency sessions. That is coming up December 17th, 21 plus, 9 p.m., $3. Gets you in here featuring Medicinal out of Minneapolis, Charlatan, the Headspace Collective, Abstract Expressions. And then you get your local boys, DJ K, Elemental P, Star 4, Iktomi. They are your local Friday night frequency DJs. So get up there, support local music, support local radio. And again, Friday Night Freaks, December 17th, Fishbowl, a.k.a. the Aquarium, a.k.a. above Dempsey's Medicinal, going to be your main man. Your locals, DJ K. Literal P, Star 4, Iktomi, the Aquarium. Again, 226 Broadway, Fargo, North Dakota. Come get your on, okay? And support local radio. And support local music. And we got new music here. Let's see, I think I covered everything, didn't I? Yeah, I think so. So again, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for tuning in to my show. I am Wilson. I do Canna-Talk talking. I'm going to do that again, 420. Come on through. Get ice in your cylinder. We're going to focus on cannabis at 420. But until then, we've got Go to Work, The Main Squeeze, Radio Free Fargo. Thank you. Hold your applause. Go to work. The main squeeze. That's brand new. That's how I like to do it. Brand new here on Radio Free Fargo. KRFF 95.9. RadioFreeFargo.org is where we're streaming and where we'll always be streaming until somebody says we can't. And even then, we'll probably keep doing it because that's how we roll here. And I just noticed there was an E on my legerdemain of Aesop Rock coming up. So hopefully it's not too bad because I listened to it and I didn't think it was. So I don't know. We might have to work something out there. But anyway, Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. Every Thursday I get in here. 4:20 we open a big fat bag of cannabis news, and I'm going to gladly do that for you. We're going to talk about South Dakota a little bit. And I'm going to tell you about ND for Freedom of Cannabis Act, 21 plus to possess, 12 plants, 6 mature, 6 non, licensed business, and you need to be where other people are smoking regular things, which cannabis should be regular. ND for Freedom of Cannabis Act petition is in Orange Records. Go down there, sign the petition. Say Matt Wilson sent you. Tochi Products, where Black Cottage Alchemy Products is also at. They have a signature petition you can sign there as well. Smokey's House of Pipes also. IndieCannabisCaucus.com. Anywhere else in North Dakota. And the other places I forgot to mention in North Dakota. And if you got time, get in there. Bring your mother. Again, time's running out. Then we got to depend on the legislators. And if you're following South Dakota, man, oh man, they're not set up to help us. Even if you pass it through. Even, especially constitutional amendments, because that's what happened in South Dakota. They made sure, and they really hate putting stuff on the Constitution. I mean, they don't want to amend the Constitution. I've noticed in South Dakota and North Dakota, whether it's beneficial or whether or not they should. Because here's the problem. All they have to do is let something through that isn't a constitutional amendment. Allow recreational cannabis to slide through. And then maybe we won't push. We're only pushing because you guys suck. And so the only way we can force you to not suck is do a constitutional amendment. But then again, they really fight you. They really look at the gray area. And in fact, they'll take like in South Dakota's case, they'll take the Amendment Z, which the people voted that in for a single subject rule, came back to bite them severely for voting that in. And the government used it against them and basically told them, we're doing what you asked us to do. Isn't that backwards? And that's what's twisted up about it all. So again, Canna-Talk ND with Wilson every Thursday. I'm going to talk about cannabis a little more, 420. So hang out for that. But until then, this segment of programming on KRFF 95.9 LPFM is being underwritten by Rough Cut Social. They are Fargo's ultimate entertainment destination for axe throwing. Enjoy fun with family and friends, a stellar team building excursion, or book your party. Rough Cut comes complete with a full beer, wine, and soda bar for your perfect time out. They're located at 1100 NP Avenue, Suite 102 in Fargo. Check out roughcutsocial.com for more info. And again, nothing says having one more Jaeger bomb like throwing axes at a hard subject. Service. You know what I mean? Nothing like family fun, like everybody running their drunk uncle to the hospital because he's got an axe in his neck. But again, if you're looking for that kind of fun, come on downtown, Rough Cut Social, underwriting this particular show. Thank you, Rough Cut Social. Now we're going to jump into this music here. And again, I didn't realize there was a E for explicit, so I'm hoping I can catch it, guys. And if not, don't kill me, especially Matt. I didn't realize it. Here it comes. We've got Tobacco, brand new, right up. Then we got Aesop Rock and Blockhead on Radio Free Fargo, KRFF 95.9. And on the other side of this, we'll do Canna-Talk ND. Come on back. We're back, everybody. KRFF 95.9, RadioFreeFargo.org is where it's streaming wherever in the world you want to listen it to. Half Tango, brand new Tobacco. F'd Up Friends 3, brand new Aesop Rock and Blockhead. That was groovy after Garbology. That's brand new to Legerdemain. Well, you know what time it about is. It's about Canna-Talk ND with Wilson time here on Radio Free Fargo. We're going to play this entry music. If you've ever listened to Canna-Talk ND with Wilson, you know the party's just on the other side of this. So get ready. Slice that piece of cake you know you don't need.
Yo, it's Wilson from Canna-Talk ND. You know, the super awesome show you're getting ready to listen to. I think you should go and subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'll wait. Okay, enjoy the show.
Welcome, everybody. Hello, everybody. Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. I'm Wilson. It's Thursday. It's 4:20-ish. So if you got a medical card here in the state of North Dakota, go ahead. Hit it. Hit it, buddy. Hit it. Ma'am. Equal opportunity medical card holder Smokey. But anyway, Larry's still here with his lawn chair. I don't think he left from last week. That's all right. Looks pretty lived in over on the left-hand side. Ladies to the right, welcome. Thank you, everybody, for coming into the audio playground that is Radio Free Fargo, KRFF 95.9. I talk about cannabis and cannabis legalization, and we're going to do that right now. First of all, locally in the state of North Dakota, ND for Freedom of Cannabis Act petitions being circulated, Orange Records, Tochi Products, other places, IndieCannabisCaucus.com. You can find out where in your world in the state of North Dakota you can sign. It is a constitutional amendment measure, which is going to be scrutinized even more. South Dakota, we're going to talk about how they scrutinize the snot out of a berry. Well, you listen to everybody that wrote it, everybody that vetted it. They said there is going to be no problems with this measure. We've looked at it. We've scrubbed it. We flipped it upside down. We flipped it right side up. We've let people who hate us read it. Everybody said it's untouchable. But guess what? The very Amendment Z that South Dakota voted on to make sure corrupt and sneaky legislators wouldn't slide in something. This was for the legislators. This wasn't for the people. The people voted this in, Amendment Z in 2018. They wanted it in, not so it would screw themselves 3 years later. That's ridiculous if the legislators in South Dakota think they're upholding the wishes of the people because they voted in a measure that they manipulated to get that kicked out after the people voted for it. It's a dirty, dirty dog shame. And we're going to talk about that a little more because, again, that can happen in North Dakota. And it will happen in North Dakota. There has to be a way to circumvent that. But the irony is that South Dakota people voted in a measure to limit legislators because they do it all the time. You vote for safer streets, and then you realize your taxes went up 40% to pay for stop signs that nobody feels they need in their neighborhood. They're like, our stop signs are plenty red. What do you mean we got to get fancy paint from India that costs 49 Bitcoin a can? They're like, well, you voted for it. Like, no, we voted for safer streets, buddy. You guys slid that other stuff, which is why South Dakota people voted for Amendment Z in 2018. Not so the legislators could nitpick a people-driven initiative that the people very well knew what was in it. But the legislators, they knew what was in it too. That's the problem. They knew what was in it too. They didn't like it. So they implemented Amendment Z, the People's Amendment. The one they used. Now, how crazy of a slap in the face is that? That's flipping crazy. And the legislators in South Dakota, which I know at least 90% of them are listening to me, need to get their life together. All right? Cannabis benefits everybody. Again, and I don't know, I'm probably a crazier Christian than most people even know. I mean, Pentecostals are crazy. We're very limited. We'll probably be the first group that'll be persecuted as we get into this further woke group. You know what I mean? And why didn't they stand up in 1939? Why wasn't the ultra-conservatives preaching cannabis and the evils of it? Because those guys were farming it. Those guys had it at their place. They used it as God's given plant to utilize for everything. Menstrual cramps, stinking, sleep issues, upset stomach, migraines. I mean, if you guys are out there popping ibuprofen 800s like the B was an S, then you should try some cannabis. And you'll wonder why people are voting this out and trying their best to get it out. And people talk about conspiracy theories. Like if you introduce cannabis, Big Pharma takes a hit. If you introduce other meds other than, the one for, that's currently being used as a, rhymes with smaxine, same deal. I mean, I know there's alternative medicines that used to be the real medicines. And I harp about this, but the alternative medicines are Big Pharma. They're the ones who took a little bit of what nature grew, added a bunch of extra filler, right? Basically took 100% lean beef and made it 70-30, right? Stretched their numbers. And now everybody thinks aspirin is the way to go. Or Tums. My daughter's grandma almost died overdosing on Tums. She had heartburn. Heartburn persisted. She took more, took a couple more. Next thing you know, she didn't even recognize her family members. She went into a coma thanks to her, I don't know if it was her significant other, for bringing her to the hospital or she'd have died. And several weeks after, she was hallucinating. She thought her daughter had a beard. Are you kidding me? That must have been from crack. That must have been from that fentanyl. No, it was from Tums, people. She overdid the Tums. Now you can wrap your brain around it and say I'm lying, but I'm not lying. It's a personal story. I mean, I dropped the kid off at the garage at the graduation party the day she no longer made any sense, my daughter's grandma. And, I mean, she was in the hospital for a long time. They didn't know if she was going to live from a pharmaceutical. Now, if she would have utilized some sort of CBD or some sort of, any low THC, whatever, an oil, even a topical probably on her stomach, probably would have alleviated a lot of that stuff naturally, right? Naturally, which means naturally it existed. You know, even if you look all the way back, how were people surviving? I believe it was because God was helping them. God provided the water. God provided the sun. God provided the clouds. That's just me. But there were no pharmaceutical companies back when the nature of the survival of the fittest was happening. And there was definitely meds. It's just they weren't produced by rhymes with Lizer. You know what I'm saying? Or Bonson and Bonson. That sounds kind of fun. Bonson and Bonson. Say it with me. Canna-Talk ND with Wilson every Thursday. Bonson and Bonson. KRWF 95.9 is what's bringing you this beautiful nugget of information here. Thursdays is when I do it. I'm going to read this off Facebook here. Okay. South Dakota's for better cannabis laws. However, that word is, rhymes with Sherry Shauna. But I'm not going to say it because I don't say it. Hey, for all you newbies that are listening to the show, please put one right hand up, put another hand down on the Rolling Stones or, High Times Magazine or the Bible, which you should have, and say, I do solemnly swear to never, ever, ever call cannabis dope, weed, marijuana, and only cannabis, so help you God. All right, well, you're in the group. So here we go. Let me read this to you. Governor Gnome has some explaining to do, said South Dakotans for better that word laws. The people of South Dakota deserve answers to the two questions below. Please call our office today at 605-773-3212. And again, 605-773-3212 is Kristi Noem's number, and demand these answers. And I think it don't matter where you live in. If you're listening to me in Lapland on your reindeer going to the range to get some, some Siberian rhodiola rosa berries, you should call in too. Get an interpreter. You can do it, yeah? How much taxpayer money did Governor Kristi Noem spend on her political lawsuit against Amendment A? She hasn't spit that out yet. I'd like to know. Because we all know that the taxpayers voted it in. And then she used their money to defeat their will. And that is insanity. It doesn't matter what it is even for. It doesn't even matter if they were trying to make crack legal. This is sneaky. And second, why did the Gnome administration mislead the public on her involvement in the Amendment A lawsuit? And that's a good point. Because, and we'll read some of this as we get into it, because if she hadn't used her executive order to petition Colonel Miller or Sheriff Thome to bring the lawsuit, then they would have thrown it out, people. They would have thrown it out and let Amendment A stand, y'all. She got in and made sure that it didn't happen by executive order. And then she tried to rescind it. So that's the second question. Why did the Gnome administration mislead the public on her involvement? On November 23rd, 2020, Gnome spokesperson Ian Fury stated that, quote, Governor Gnome did not ask Colonel Miller or Sheriff Thome to bring the lawsuit. Then on January 8, 2021, Governor Gnome filed an executive order stating, quote, upon my prior instruction, Colonel Miller commenced the Amendment A lawsuit. How does she explain this? We demand the truth. I want to know. If you guys want to know, call the Gnome administration, 605-773-3212, and let's get some answers. Because, again, we deserve some answers. South Dakota, everybody deserves some answers. And I think it's downright dirty what she did, to be honest with you. So let me see if I can read a little more. This is from Cannabis Now. Legalism against legalization. This is South Dakota Supreme Court squelches legalization initiative. South Dakota was one of the 4 states that voted to legalize it. Now the state Supreme Court has barred the amendment from taking effect, which if you guys listen, you understand that, after a challenge brought with the support of the Republican governor. And that's what's in question now. So South Dakota saw a real victory when they voted it in. Okay. And then the first initial Measure 26 that got passed. So immediately following the election, a case challenging Amendment A was brought by 2 law enforcement figures. There was no doubt that the pair brought the suit as proxies. All right, proxies were people that were doing it for somebody else. Kind of like what is it? The Houthis and the Houthi rebels in Yemen, or the where are the Hamas? Hamas are all Iran proxies. Iran's hooking them up with the monies, but then you're not going to get to Iran. I mean, Hamas will take the blunt of it. So, Amendment A. So, Gnome explicitly in a January 2021 executive order, she opted to delegate Miller to bring the litigation on her behalf. So, the amendment was found to have violated the single subject requirement, which we know because it dealt with 3 subjects: adult use cannabis, medical, and hemp. Ironically, that provision of the Constitution was itself proved by the voters in 2018, Amendment Z, intended to prevent voters from being confused or conflicted by multiple provisions to the same amendment. And that's what they used to spin. So the ruling further found that the amendment violated Article 23 and required a constitutional convention for revisions. Judge found that the amendment was significant enough to kick in writing. Amendment A is a revision as it has far-reaching effects on the basic nature of South Dakota's governmental system. So it had nothing to do with the people. It's all about them. So it did not address the argument that the amendment should have been approved by a constitutional convention. So anyway, it's clear that Amendment A contains provisions embracing at least 3 subjects. And Governor Gnome tweeted, I already read that last week. But anyway, the court has rejected common sense. This is not the end of the legislation efforts in South Dakota. Advocates are now attempting to bring adult use cannabis back. So they're going to signature gathering campaign for the new Ballad was launched in October. So shout out to South Dakota for not giving up. And so let me see if I can find more information and then we'll move on. Let's see. University of South Dakota said there's now some clarity for lawyers advising clients and groups of people who may propose future constitutional amendments to ballot measures. That's a good point because it doesn't resolve every question. And I think you see that in the decision itself. Justice dissented and he applied the same test. He identified the single subject to be the regulation of cannabinoids. Generally, the majority saw the question as regulating medical cannabis, rec, and industrial hemp. So he seemed to be the only guy that we like. Chief Justice, who wrote the court's decision, noticed the single subject provision wasn't the main base, but instead cited an 1897 decision, State versus Adams, or Adams versus Herried. We do make changing the Constitution a little bit harder than changing the law because they don't like it. All right? They don't like it. So, anyway, there was standing only. Okay, so let me see here. All right, so the answer of having legal standing was also answered by explaining Governor Kristi Noem is responsible for Amendment A being struck down. Now, let me just say that again. There's legal standing that has to apply. Okay? And so there wouldn't have been. Hadn't Kristi Noem struck down Amendment A. And here I'll tell you a little more about it and then we'll move on. There was standing only because Governor Kristi Noem has constitutional responsibilities, and she tasked Miller to carry those out. She can't delegate her standing, but the court found she was acting through Miller, and as a result, there was a standing. And here we go. Here's the quote by Fulton. If that hadn't been the case, they'd dismiss the case, and we wouldn't know the answer to the substantive question. Fulton emphasized the court wouldn't have listened to the case if Governor Gnome didn't issue an executive order ratifying a lawsuit giving aid to Pennington County Sheriff Thome and Patrol Superintendent Miller, Colonel Rick Miller, a.k.a. Colonel Dick Miller. It was one where everybody won some and everybody lost some, and it's always interesting when that happens in a case. So Fulton described the process of log rolling, which is mentioned throughout the ruling as a way to keep separate ideas separated so they stand and fall on their own merits. So you do see there are different avenues for the law to evolve and meet evolving social challenges. The legislator can act, the people can act through initiative and referendums, and then the courts are there to provide interruption. Insane. So I'm with you, South Dakota, but you see that? You see that, people? It would have been thrown out if Kristi hadn't got her stinking clause involved and then gave it legal standing. This is from Cannabis Moment. Top federal drug official says there's no evidence that occasional cannabis use is harmful for adults. The head of the nation's top federal drug research agency says that she's yet to see evidence that cannabis use is harmful. There was an interview with 538, was published on Tuesday. It's a notable admission given. She says, there's no evidence to my knowledge that occasional use has harmful effects. I don't know of any scientific evidence of that, neither do I. I don't think it has been evaluated. We need to test it. Sure you do. Let me be the test subject, or my twin sister, Jilson. The quote stood out in an article that generally attempts to highlight possible risks of cannabis. Bolko also said she found it surprising that research has indicated that cannabis consumers tend to have a lower body mass index, which, for you unpolitically correct people, cannabis users aren't fat. BMI is lower in their cannabis users, and that was very surprising. And yet we know that high BMI, particularly the older you get, can have negative effects. This is why we need to study it, which is why the lazy, fat cannabis users is a bunch of bull. This is certainly not to say that the NID director supports cannabis commercialization efforts, of course, but she is absolutely concerned about use by young people and said the daily consumption of high THC products can have harmful effects even on the adult brain. Again, let's see some tests. And again, if you're vaping massive clouds of moon rock, I don't know. I'm older. I don't know what the youth are into. What are they eating, whole bags? It's hard to say. Are they throwing in some NyQuil, some dish pods? Are they stuffing cannabis into Tide Pods and then snorting them? While eating 49 eggs at one time while somebody stabs them in the back of the head with 14 Bic pens? I don't know. I'm 40-something. Ha ha ha, I ain't going to tell you exactly. Okay, I will. I'm 46. It don't matter. I love life. Today. She said in an op-ed earlier this month that the stigma remains one of the biggest obstacles to confronting Americans' current drug crisis. Well, the current drug crisis right now is the stinking Chinese people pushing that stinking fentanyl over here. Can you believe when they start talking about dangers of fentanyl? Is that, and there's all kinds of tricky things with fentanyl I'm learning as I research it more. And I'm listening to addicts who have switched, to fentanyl because it's cheaper and apparently it's more dangerous. But you start hearing people talk about like pinhead's worth will kill an army. Well, if you start with a tenth of a pinhead, you can work your way up to 40 armies. You know what I mean? Tolerance is going to build no matter what. Yeah, if you're just some idiot who sees something white on the ground, goes, hey, some identified small size of a pinhead thing on the ground, I think I'm going to eat it. You're an idiot. We don't need you alive. You know what I'm saying? But if you know it's fentanyl, you're going to start slow. Start slow. And then the next thing you know, and then I've been hearing like the sickness is more intense, so you're more addicted. And they say it comes from China. Well, it seems like a long terrorist game to me. Because right now, what do you hear about? Fentanyl. You don't even hear about black tar heroin, which I'm not sure where that even came from. Don't say tar pits or I'll reach my hand into the airways and slap you. And Peruvian marching powder, I believe, is coke. But it is fun to say, so if you ever want to say, I've been dabbling in the Peruvian marching powder, you don't have to actually be dabbling. Just say it. It's fun. You can do it. It's the holiday season. I hope everybody had a happy Thanksgiving. I hope everybody's getting stoked for Christmas. I'm going to go to Dickinson, see the kid. The house is going to be empty when I get there, except for the guard dog. And so I'm going to be carrying beef tips, hamburger, and I'm going to break into the house essentially. So, be thinking about me, I might get my leg ripped off. But chances are they say dogs don't protect intruders. So I'm going to be praying that that dog does not decide to, rip my throat for them beef tips. But anyway, I just got distracted. Let's keep talking. Okay. This is kind of interesting. Jamaican government launches Good Ganja Sense campaign to debunk cannabis myths. Jamaica Mon have launched a campaign. The centerpiece of the Good Ganja Sense is a new website that provides resources on cannabis's health impacts and benefits, debunks myths. The Mystery of Health and Wellness officially rolled out the site. Contains several sources that will certainly stimulate more talk about ganja. The pages give a background on the campaign, links to media items. So they're in a digital world where people are finding information for themselves, and the information may be false, so they're trying to educate them on the benefits of cannabis. such as notions that cannabis use makes people lazy, that it lowers sperm count, that it leads people to seek out more dangerous drugs and more. And I can assure you, from a guy who was up to my nipples for many years in seeking out more dangerous drugs, if I chose cannabis, it changed the course of my day. I may not look harder. I might do things that I regretted, I was ashamed of, to get the drug. I may opt to take a shower, eat some food, reflect, and not bother bugging that drug dealer to get whatever it is that was way more dangerous than what I currently was satisfied with. That's the thing. Cannabis will satisfy you. It self-regulates. You're not going to overdo it. Fentanyl, one extra little pebble. You're dancing with the dead devil. See what I'm saying? You could take 40 pounds of cannabis and shove it up your hindy hole with maybe some vodka just to kind of, get it rocking. You're just going to have a weird story at the hospital when you try to get all that out of there. So anyway, the education effort also features bus ads that urge people to burn ganja myths and instead go with the science, which in this case, I got to believe you. So here we go. Bipartisan lawmakers push VA to allow medical cannabis access for veterans as soon as possible. Let's give bipartisan lawmakers that are pushing VAs to allow medical cannabis for veterans as soon as possible a hand. Published one day ago by Kyle Yeager. The U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs must urgently institute a policy change to ensure that military veterans can access cannabis. Writing to the secretary, the co-chairs said, please consider a change in policy to allow access and to act swiftly and implement this change as soon as possible. So we're not going to keep reading that, but man, why aren't we allowing our vets some relief? This is from Hemp Industry Daily. Lamborghini aligns with Canadian cannabis producer to launch CBD coffee drinks. So I don't know if that's good or bad, right? A new deal between a luxury goods brand and a Canadian cannabis producer will see greater investment in the growing CBD beverage markets in 2022. Toronto-based cannabis company announced Monday that it signed a licensing agreement with Tonino Lamborghini, which, when I see those two names together, it should be Tonino Lamborghino, right? Or Tonini Lamborghini. An Italian luxury lifestyle brand with food and beverages sells CBD-infused beverages in North America and Colombia, which in Colombia there's also cocaine in it. I'm just kidding. I got no idea. It's run by members of the Lamborghini family, descendants of Ferruccio Lamborghini, who founded the sports car brand. But the company is not affiliated with the automaker, which is now a unit of Volkswagen. The two companies will start the drinks in Florida, first quarter 2022, throughout the U.S., where, of course, cannabis products are legal. Cannabis market represents a very interesting niche, said Tonino Lamborghini, CEO of Ferruccio Lamborghini, the grandson of the dynasty founder. They've been dealing in the coffee sector for more than 30 years, so why not them? Here's an interesting story. Dubai, this is from MaryJane.com. Dubai will no longer imprison tourists caught with the weed. Tourists who are caught with cannabis in Dubai will no longer face excessive prison sentences thanks to a major overhaul of the UAE's extreme drug prohibition laws. And now back in the day, if you got caught with a little bit of cannabis, what they'd do is they'd put a turban on you so tight that it would bust blood vessels, and then they would strap you to a camel, punch the camel in the backside, and it would take off into the desert, and that was your punishment. And if you made it back alive, they strapped you to another camel. It was horrible. I just made it up. I got no idea what the prison sentences are. This major reform, which was announced last week by UAE President Sheikh Khalifa bin Zayed Al Nahyan, aims to modernize the country's antiquated drug laws, which, again, back in the day, they'd strap a turban on your head so tight it'd bump blood vessels. You'd get blood in your eyes. They'd tie you to a camel on your back, punch it in its backside, and you just spend the rest of your vacation wandering around the desert, trying to figure out what you could use to wipe the blood out of your eyes. It was horrible, so antiquated. Once the law takes effect, January 2, 2022, tourists caught entering Dubai with cannabis or any infused products will no longer be charged. Instead, police will simply confiscate and destroy it. Which in my head means they're not going to be looking very hard anymore. So in my head, if I was going to Dubai, I'd fly with something. I'm just saying. I mean, maybe I wouldn't. Maybe it would feel like it was illegal and a sin, and then, the man upstairs wouldn't let me do it. Under the UAE's current drug laws, anyone caught possessing even a residual amount of the cannabis can be sentenced to a minimum of 2 years in jail. This penalty even applies to anyone with residual weed in their system. Ouch! Last year, Dubai police arrested Pete Clark, an American citizen, after he tested positive for a routine drug test during an emergency hospital visit. He didn't even bring cannabis into the UAE, though, but had simply gotten high on legal cannabis in Nevada before his trip. He was eventually released after 2 months, people, but still had to cough up 50 G's in fines and legal fees. The new law also reduces the mandatory minimum sentence for first-time drug possession to 3 months, down from 2 years. Courts will still have the option of imposing massive fines for first-time offenses, though we can clearly see a recognition of the need for a coordinated approach that considers criminal justice and public health in regards to using drugs. Instead of being locked in prison with violent criminals, drug offenders will be sent to secure detention centers offering rehab. Well, good on Dubai. Let me just read this really fast. Pennsylvania official launches cannabis pardon program just before leaving office, and it's going to be a good one. You don't have to do anything. They'll do it all for you. You've listened to another super cool, awesome Canna-Talk ND with Wilson here on Radio Free Fargo. And I'm glad that you joined us. Come back next Thursday and we're going to do it all again. This segment of programming on Radio Free Fargo 95.9 has been underwritten by Teddy's Chicago-style cuisine. Teddy's with a Z brings Chicago-style flavors to Fargo, featuring beef gyros, Italian beef sandwiches, steak tacos, and beef hot dogs. Teddy's is located 530 6th Avenue North in downtown Fargo. Teddy's is open daily Monday through Saturday, 11:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Look for Teddy's with a Z on Facebook for more information. Again, thanks for listening to Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. After me is Stinky Arts Music Mart. Locals on the 8, Radio Madness, Black Ring Ritual. I was Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. I've got a song called by Clifton Hicks called Ballad of Kyle Rittenhouse I thought was interesting. Let's listen. All right, Ballad of Kyle Rittenhouse, Clifton Hicks on his little banjo and his fiddle strings. Thanks for checking it out. Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. Every Thursday we get in here, KRFF 95.9. Right before me, Side Stage with Trav, 1 to 3. Canna-Talk ND with me, 4 to 5. And then Stinky Arts Music Mart right after me. Locals on the 8, Radio Madness. And then Black Ring Ritual. What a trippy song that was. I wasn't really sure what we were getting into, to be honest with you. I mean, I knew there was no cussing. And I knew this guy was, it was like listening to like black and white, early kind of like old school banjo-y music, but then he's talking about a subject that just like wrapped up just a while ago. That seemed pretty crazy to me. But anyway, this show, Canna-Talk ND with Wilson, we talk about cannabis legalization, the benefits thereof, is brought to you by Black Cottage Alchemy, blackcottagealchemy.com, Black Cottage Alchemy on Facebook. Black Cottage Alchemy has the body butter, which I suggest, alpine hemp, CBD, comfrey. I'll bring the bottle in and read, but it's really great stuff to rub on wherever on your body that you got problems. Skin issues, oily, dryness, blah, 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 blah. Tochi Products have got it in there for you. Just roll on in there. Sign the petition, Indy for Freedom of Cannabis Act. Go to Orange Records, sign it there too. We're running out of time. But anyway, educate yourself so you can benefit others. Or so you can educate others on the benefits of cannabis. I'll be back up in this sucker next Thursday, 4 o'clock like I always do. So be good to yourselves. And it is the holiday season, so keep it green whenever you can. Educate again yourself so you can educate others on the benefits of cannabis. Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. We'll be back next Thursday. I'm out of here. David Allen, Judgment Day. Peace.